Right, Hero Team, and welcome back to DayZ Builds. We're going to do something a little bit different in this one. We're going to be doing a Woodland build this time. So look, there's a few things to talk about in terms of Woodland builds, in terms of logistics. So let's talk about that first. So if you're going to come out into the woods, you are going to want to pick a place that is far away from somewhere, right? I mean, if you put a base next to a busy road, what's going to happen? Well, people are going to see it all the time. If you put it in a reasonably high traffic area, which is, say, the red route or the green route or whatever, people are going to see it. And then people are going to come and nosy. And once people start nosy and they start wanting to attack and climb over and do all the kind of bits and pieces that they want to do. Also, if it can be seen from anywhere, if there was any vantage points within, I think it's 1.5 kilometers. There's a hill over there where if people came over there, they may be able to see it, but I don't know. We might be able to cover some of that with camo nets. Ignore the truck. The truck may not be here then, but there'll be walls as well. So you need to very carefully think about where you're putting it. There's also height. If you want a flag, we'll talk about that in a minute. If you want a flag, your flag should not be higher than the surrounding trees. Because if your flag stuck out above the trees, people would see it and go, hey, what's that flag doing over there? I'm using the jolly old Cannibals flag, which is a skull with a spatula and a fork in the skull and crossbones kind of thing, because I'm a pirate, yarr, so I always use that flag. So that's what I'm using. You may not. There are other flags that are green and various colors and may fit in slightly better than that, may be less visible from a distance. It's entirely up to you. So first off is location, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But once you've found your location, you need to get stuff here. Now, if you're a solo, building a base is nigh on impossible. On a low pop server, which is what I'm on, my server, it's fine, you know, because it's not that busy and you can get away with storing stuff in places, and then you can leave your truck and you can fill up your truck and you can bring your truck with you and all of that kind of jazz. The truck is essentially a mobile base building unit, to be fair. So you can do that. If you're on a moderate population server, it's as a single player, it's going to be really difficult to secure your vehicle, even just to use it as storage, never mind actually trying to build a base with it. And if you're on a high pop server, unless you're a gang of people, I would say forget about it. And at that point it becomes a case of, our base is even worth it on a high pop server, and should you do something else? But that's perhaps a discussion for another time. So let's assume that you are going to build this. Let's assume that you have got a truck. I've also brought a tent out here, and I'll explain that in a minute, and a barrel. And I've also built my flag already, because I might be here a while, I might be doing things, I know I'm going to need it. It's a pen in the neck to build, so I wanted to get it out of the way first thing. It also means that if I store anything or keep anything here, it isn't going to despawn on me, which is fantastic. So once I've covered the logistics of actually filling my truck up with stuff, and again, talk about that in a minute. So my logs, my timber, my metal, my nails, my tools, my what everything. And I've brought this out to the place that I want to go to. What kind of layout are you after? Because that's also a very important thing. You're not hampered by the designs of a building. So it's not a case of saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, but there are some considerations. I discussed some of those at the introduction about clashing boxes and things, but I'll walk you through this one. So the first thing was that it needs to be a relatively flat area. You can't build bases on a slope, and again, I covered that in the beginning. Same with tents. If you want to use tent as shelter and storage, you can't. It needs to be flat. It just needs to be flat. So it needs to be a relatively flat area. Check. Found a relatively flat area. Relatively tall trees. Check. Got that. Relatively free on clash boxes. check. These trees in particular are very good because although they don't provide the greatest amount of visible cover like pine trees do, pine trees are clash box nightmares. There's just clash boxes everywhere. So it's entirely up to you want to deal with pines or not. These are obviously some kind of pine. I don't know exactly what they are. Some kind of whatever. But slightly less clash boxes. A fresh, clean area. That said, there are some things that you cannot deal with. This log, I've had to go around this log. I didn't necessarily want to come all the way out around this log, but I don't have a choice. I can't. You can't interact with it with anything. But you cannot build over the top of it. It won't let you build over the top of it. There's a clash box on it, so you have to go around it. Bushes and things get in the way. Obviously, trees, too close to trees, you're not going to be able to do anything. You may be able to cut the tree down and build around it, but it's up to you. I wanted a bit of space out here for this thing, so that's fine. And I wanted a bit of space over here as a straight run. This is okay. I managed to find a spot. To be fair, I put the tent down first. So I found the spot where the tent would fit, and then I built around the tent, and also for the vehicles, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But also this thing you can't interact with this thing. You can't chop it down, but a vehicle will collide with it. So and it is a collision object, so you can't build over the top of this thing. It's just an absolute nuisance. So here we go. And the other thing was I knew for a fact that I wanted room for potentially two vehicles. A Hummer in here and a truck in here. At the time I didn't know which was which. I didn't know how much space we would have with this thing in the way. But I did decide that this was ultimately going to be as big as it needed to be to get a full width vehicle in this side and a full width vehicle in that side, and then go around the outside of the various other bits and pieces. Now then, does that leave me at risk of things? Yes, it does. Could you build a watchtower here? Yes, you could. What are you going to do about that? There's a possibility for a second level of defense around this, and I'm currently considering that. Let me think about that one and get back to you, because you could do a double skinned base, which means that there will be another wall out here about half a meter's distance from that wall to the outer wall. I should be able to sneak in just inside this tree, should be able to sneak in all the way around here, and should be able to make something. I can get rid of that bush, but it's probably not in the way. These are probably not in the way. I can probably go around the outside here, and around the outside here, and around the outside here. So there is enough space to do an entire double skin on this, and that may be something that I end up doing for security. It's definitely something worth considering on any base. Can you do it or not? Now, I then obviously laid these things out, and it's just a case of laying them out. And you take your time and start in one area and work your way around. And when I got back around to the beginning again, which was here, there's a bit of monkeying around. You put a fence down and another fence that doesn't quite fit, and you pick one up and you put one down, you pick one up, you put one down, and you might have to move two or three, and you monkey around and you shift things, and maybe you end up with a little gap which is a little bit bigger than you would have liked, in a couple of places. But it's probably not the be all and end all of absolutely everything to get every single base entirely 100% waterproof. It's not always possible, and it is frankly bloody hard. If we're going to put a second skin in, that might ease that a little bit, because you're going to have different gaps in different places, so it isn't going to be so easy. So before you even start to think about resourcing this monster, I would say find your place, come out if you want to bring out a tent, and come out with your fence kits bunch of them and start measuring it out. You don't need to build anything. People won't see it sitting on the ground from miles away. They'd have to literally stumble across it. So you can come out here, lay out your fence kits. You might have a tent here. You can put a camo on it, whatever, and just check it out and see what it looks like. Is it going to work? Because there's nothing worse than getting all your gear, coming all the way out here, building half a base and realize it isn't going to work, and you have to take it all apart, and you'll recover some stuff, but not all the stuff, and then you have to do it again. So don't do that. Get your fence kits, pace it out, mark it out. Say to yourself, is this the base that's going to work for me? And if it is going to work for you, fantastic. And then you can start measuring up the resources you need. Now, in terms of resources that I need for this one, I've counted this out. There's 16 fence panels around here. So it goes all the way around. There's 16 of these suckers. So that's 32 logs for a start. Now, let's take a look at our trusty old truck. So our trusty old truck carries 50 logs. So no drama. I didn't have all the logs in there because I used the logs for the flagpole. But let's not talk about that for now. You can go and have a look at the flagpole on the admin base build if you want to. But yes, so 32 logs. Check. One full truck. Logs are a piece of cake. Get yourself a hatchet, a couple of sharpened stones, go cut down some trees. It takes 10 minutes and you can fill up the thing with logs. No drama. Right, logs, check. So now we need to talk about, we got all the logs in place, that's all fine. Fence panels. Are you going to do all timber fence panels? Are you rich enough to do all metal fence panels? All metal fence panels would be a nightmare. Well, it wouldn't be a nightmare. It would take you ages. Just take you for absolute ever. Trying to find metal is tricky enough. Trying to find 6 times 16, which is 96 metal. I mean, I don't know how long you've got to spend, but 96 metal, where are you going to put it? This thing only carries 40, and each one is 100. So another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. The back of the truck carries 600. So you could have another 60 in there. That's 100. Man, that's a lot of metal. If you can do it, fantastic. You go all metal. As I think I've said to you before, you know, I think your best bang for buck is doing a combination timber metal fence if you want to go down that road and have the metal on the bottom and the timber on the top. And that way you're halving the amount of metal, and it's only going to take 48 metal. 16 fences times 3 per fence panel. So that's 48. I've got 40. Can I get another 8? Yeah, I think I probably can. I think I know where I can get another 8. So I think that's okay. So I can probably do combination metal and timber fences for the interior. And then the exterior, which would be more sacrificial, you can just use timber. The intention being that people would break the outer fence and then get into the inner fence and find that harder. So your outer fence is your more sacrificial fence. Make it out of the cheaper material, right? If you want to make the outer fence out of the harder material, that's fine, but then it's harder to replace. You expect that to be broken because they then come along with their 3 or 4 claymores or their 12 grenades or whatever, and they break through the panel, and then they get through the next one. They realize they don't have enough grenades. They need to go get some more, etc. That gives you time to repair it. So that's up to you. So I think for this one, I have almost all the resources I need immediately. I'm short some metal, so there'll be 2 panels that will be short of metal to start with. So I'll need to be aware of that. And then the other thing is nails. If it's a standard timber fence, it's going to be 32 nails times 16, which is going to be a lot. I didn't work it out, but it's 30 times 16 is 300, and 3 sixes is 18, so that's 318, and then 2 16s is 32, 350 nails. My math's shocking. Let's say it's 350 nails. I've got 350 nails. That's not a problem. With the metal, it's extra. Pardon me. Because metal sheets use up slightly more nails. So it's probably more like, instead of 32 nails per fence, it's 36 nails per fence times 16. I've already worked that out. That's 468. It's not that my mental arithmetic's that good. Do I have 468 nails? Yes, I do. So I've marked out my base. I've calculated how much stuff I need. I've grabbed what I currently have. I've got everything ready. I've got my tools. I've got sharpening stones. I've got all of the other bits and pieces I need. I've got a place to rest. I've got some food to keep me going. I've got a flag. It's still daylight. Hello up there. So what I need to do now is I need to get on with digging in all of these logs. I need my hoe for that. Wherever I put my hoe, I put my hoe, I think, in here. Yeah, I put my hoe in there. Of course I did. I'll need a couple of sharpening stones. Have I got any sharpening stones on me? I've got 2 sharpening stones on me. So I've got some hoeing to do, and I'll get on with a hoeing, and I'll probably get the frames together. And then once the frames are together, I'll bring you back and we'll have a look at the layout with the frames. So sit back and listen to the music, and I'll see you soon. Right, so here we are. We've finished up the framing, and this will give us an opportunity to have a good look at what we're looking at right now. So I had to bring the truck out just for ease, just for building these walls. It's a little bit easier so these boxes don't all get in the way. There's an action box behind the truck, and there's action boxes for the walls and things, which will eventually go away when the walls are built. And we got these 2 side-by-side gates here. We've got this wall in here. We've got this gap, which is not nearly as big as I thought it might end up being. And I have to say the rest of them have come in pretty good. I was marginally worried about this collision box, so I built this wall first. And my advice would be, if there are any areas that you're not 100% sure about, build those first. There's nothing worse than building, half the base and getting around and then realizing this doesn't work, and you need to try and change wall placements after you've built them. So start with the ones that are going to be the most problematic. The rest of these are all going to be fine. Yeah, I mean, it's come in not bad. Better than I thought, actually. A lot of these panels have come in a lot tighter placed than I thought they would, which is pretty good. So yeah, so that is ultimately what the base is going to look like for me, and I'm pretty happy with it. And now is the time to obviously say to yourself, is there anything you want to change? Is there anything you want to change? Is there anything you're not happy about? Is there anything you did, like, is this going to be a game killer for you? I don't think it is. Is there any other boxes or anything that's going to be a drama? I don't believe that there is. I think that I'm 100% happy with what I have here, and I think that for me, that means that I'm happy to move on to the next phase. So the next phase for me is going to be getting in these half-clad walls, timber and metal. Because the other thing I would like to do, I think around the inside, maybe, is think about things like barbed wire. Barbed wire might be a bit of a longer project because it's a bit harder to get hold of, but you know, things like barbed wire and camo netting can be a bit more of a long-term project for you. You don't necessarily have to have a stockpile of those, just one of those things that you need to get together. I'm trying to think about where the value with the barbed wire would be for this base. I think the value for the barbed wire might be... It might actually be on the bottom of the outer wall and the top of the inner wall. Why do you say that, LJ? Well, I'll tell you why. If I'm doing an outer wall and it's going to be timber, if you put barbed wire on the bottom of the wall, the barbed wire it stays until the frame is gone, and it's a nuisance for people in terms of getting cut because they get too close to it. So it's a box at the bottom. I mean, I suppose they could build a watchtower on the outside and climb over the top. The barbed wire kind of helps with that regard, in that it's a collision box. It's a little bit more of a nuisance. They do have to jump it. It does run the risk of cutting them. 50-50. I mean, above and below would be perfect if you could do it all. On the inner fence, the barbed wire will stay as long as the metal stays. So I think on the inner fence, barbed wire along the top would be better. That's probably the only thing. I'd certainly like on the outer fence all camo netting. I don't know how many panels that's going to be, but I think for right now, what I need to get started with, I need to get started with securing the space. I need to get the timber and metal panels in place, and once I have the timber and metal panels in place, we'll come back and we'll have another look, and we'll have some thoughts about the outer wall and what that looks like. I'll see you soon. Well, welcome back. So here we go. Here is what the finished base looks like. Well, I say finished base. This is it in the extent that it's got all of its undergarments on. You can see here that we've gone with the metal wall at the bottom, gone with timber wall at the top. We've gone all the way around. A little bit of a hole in there we can see in from. And this takes it all the way around the side, all the way over here. This is not looking too bad. This is not looking too bad at all. Yeah. I'm happy with how it's looking. We'll get the gate open. Let's have a look inside. So yeah, I mean, we got the truck in, plenty of room. trees in the way a little bit, but there you go. Can't have everything. We got plenty of space back here. We got all this space back here around our flag. Got a whole little room. We got this fallen down tree. We got all in here, and we have our tent, obviously, in here where everything is looking hunky-dory. So it's not quite all finished. So what I'm gonna do is I think there's maybe a few more steps left on this until we get it finished. So let's go through at least the first stage. Ta-da! So I think this is going to be. Let's say this is kind of stage one, end of stage one. So we've put the camo netting on. We've put barbed wire all around the top. We got the metal on the bottom. It's looking pretty handy. It's looking pretty sorted. I mean, it's the kind of thing that just, I mean, as it is, it's probably fine. I'm just gonna go a little bit further out here. I mean, it really breaks up the profile. It's as different light falls on it, it'll either stand out or fade in different ways. But you know, that's pretty hard to see, if you don't mind me saying. Okay, so that's, I mean, and that could be it. That could be your base. You know, you could walk away from this and say, yep, that's my base. Quite happy, quite happy, quite happy. Taking a look on the inside, though, there's a couple of things that I want to do on the inside, and then we'll talk about the outside. There's no platforms. So we have, it's essentially a square. So essentially we have 4 active sides. We have this side over here, which is fine. Getting a platform in here might be a bit of a nuisance with getting a vehicle in. We could maybe squeeze one in over here. I don't think it would be too much trouble. Might be able to squeeze one in the back, which would give us a bit of coverage. We definitely want one in the back. Probably in the middle. Really, well, I say middle. There's 4 panels here. This one. We got these over here. I need to see if this will permit a platform here or not. Could build one in the corner. Probably not going to use this corner area because this flagpole's here. To be fair, and we might be able to squeeze one in here, maybe on this one. So there's a number of platforms to consider, because at the minute we're a bit blind to any activity that's occurring outside, and that's not a positive thing. Definitely not a positive thing. If we go on the outside, like I've said to you before, this is all well and good, but we really might need additional protection. Now, the obvious, you know, downside to that is, well, the obvious point to that is these camo nets on the inside would become superfluous, but that's fine. We'll just move them to the outer wall. This was just a case of putting the camo nets in for a bit of dramatic effect and to show you what it could look like if this was just going to be the base. So I think there's still a little bit for me to do in terms of this build to get it to the stage where I want. So I think what I will do is I'll have a look at laying out an outer perimeter for this base, and also look at pulling in the platforms. But before I do that, just for the sake of clarification and my bad math, for heaven's sakes, is 10 nails to 5 planks for a timber wall. It's not 8 nails to 5 planks. It's 8 nails to 4 planks for the frame upper, and 8 nails and 4 planks for the lower. But when you're putting the timber wall on, it is 10 nails to 5 planks. So so you can forget about what I said earlier about the correct number of nails. I'll give you the correct number of nails for this build. it probably in stages at the end, but it will include, pardon me, 10 nails to 5 planks. So I've still got a little bit of work to do, and I'm going to crack on and do that. And what I will probably do, actually, to skip you some pain and headache, is I will lay in the outer wall, and I will get it up to framing stage, and we'll have a look at it at framing stage. And I guess that will probably be the point at which we talk about what we want to do with the outside. But for now, we'll see you soon. Right, well, here we are. Should we go have a little look? Let's start on the outside. So it's a little bit less trim, perhaps, compared to the inside, but we've still got the 2 gates. There's still our internal gates. We have our external gates just here and here. And what I've done, obviously, is I've moved the camo from the inside to the outside, because that makes a lot more sense and saves on camo nets. Still got barbed wire inside and outside, so that additional layer of security. And it just goes around the outside. And I had to... It's not too bad. I mean, I had to janky a couple of things around trees and fallen logs around here. And obviously we've got this tree here, and we've got a thing here. It gets a little bit sketchy around this corner here. And we kind of whizzed past it. It's hidden behind this tree. It was a little bit... Didn't quite 100% match up. So it got a little bit... yeah. I mean, it's still good. You know, it's still not bad. I mean, people can see in, but they can't... You can see that there's another fence in there. That's about as good as it gets. So, yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge. But we did manage to squeeze it in. We managed to get around this tree and so on and whatnot. And that's not too bad. There's 18 panels on the outside, just out of interest. And then we have the inside. We'll just have a quick look around here. So there's a gap in between for 2 purposes. It got a little bit close in here, and we'll talk about that. That's because of the proximity to this big tall tree. So there's a gap in here for 2 reasons. First is, in terms of construction, it pays to have a gap that you can actually get down, so that you can actually construct these things. Otherwise, you run the very real risk of constructing yourself into a corner, and you would have to chop up your own fence to get out with an axe, and then you can't build it from the outside, you can only build it from the inside. So, oh, that's the first time I've had wolves. I better just make sure that my my gate door is shut, because if we're going to have wolves turn up, which is going to be quite annoying, we better make sure that our gate is actually closed. So yeah, and the other reason for ensuring that we have this gap is because if someone's trying to crawl over or jump over or blast their way in, having this gap presents a few problems to that. I won't go into the finer details, but you want some gap essentially, so that you can have some distance between your outer wall and your inner wall. And like I say, it got a bit snug in here. And I had to carefully build one wall at a time, backing my way out to make sure I didn't get stuck in it. So that's not too bad. There's things like this which occasionally happen, which is you end up with your flag kits getting stuck, or not flag kits, fence kits getting stuck, and there's not a lot I can do about that. Sorry to say, sad to report. And before these wolves get much more annoying, we'll go and have a look at the inside before we talk about numbers. So we've still got the double fence system obviously going on here. Is that them over there? It is them over there. Thoughtfully coming this way. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. You're so very annoying. Could you please go away? Yeah, so we've still got the timber and metal fencing, and we've got 16 panels. I opted, like I said, for the 4 platforms. So we've got a platform there and a platform here. and a platform over there. And they're all gnashing around on the outside, and a platform over here. So I mean, it's not bad, the platform, because you have the double. Like, shooting these wolves from here would be very, very difficult because I'm not quite high enough, and I can't quite see enough to be able to hit them, I don't think. And I'm not quite 100% sure you can actually fire through barbed wire. But it does give me advantage, and I can see what's going on, and it gives me an opportunity, like I said, to see those wolves and see where they were coming from, etc, etc, etc. So here we are, and this is the Woodland build. And I think I'll probably just have to deal with those wolves, and then I'll get back to you with exactly what it took to build this. Right, no more wolves. So we'll talk about this in two parts, really. We'll talk about the inner part, and then we'll talk about the outer part. And in terms of the inner part, we're talking about 16 fence panel base wall, split 50-50 timber and metal, 2 gates, and 4 platforms with double stairs. So what that ultimately ends up looking like is per fence panel you need 2 logs, you need 8 nails and 4 planks times 2 for the frame. For the timber wall you need 10 nails and 5 planks. For the metal portion of the wall you need 12 nails and 3 metal. And for my walls I had 1 barbed wire and 1 camo net. So altogether the total for the build for the fences is 32 logs, 608 nails, 208 planks, 48 metal, 16 barbed wire, and 16 camo nets. 2 gates requiring 2 wire and 2 code locks. And for the platforms, a platform is 15 nails and 5 planks. The stairs are 8 nails and 4 planks each. I've got 4 of those. So for the total for the platforms is an additional 124 nails and 52 planks. And I'll let you do the math based on that. And if you were the kind of thing you wanted more platforms or less platforms, then that would be it, and away you would go. And as I said, you could leave it just like that, and that would be perfectly fine. You could have that base, wouldn't be a drama. It'll probably be mostly okay. You're relying on a bit of concealment, but there's every possibility, of course, that it could end up getting raided. None of that, of course, includes the flag, and I've talked about the flag before, and you can go and look up what it takes to build a flag. Now, the outer skin is another 18 fence panels. Obviously, you go out more, it takes a little bit more, so 18 fence panels. Each of those is a fairly standard wooden all-timber fence panel that requires 2 logs, 8 nails and 4 planks times 2 for the frames, 10 nails and 5 planks times 2 for the walls, plus 1 barbed wire plus 1 camo net. So the total per panel is 2 logs, 36 nails, 18 planks, 1 barbed wire and 1 camo net. The total for that exterior build then is 36 logs, 648 nails, 324 planks, 18 barbed wire, 18 camo nets, and of course 2 of those panels are gates, which require a further 2 wire and 2 code locks, and that's it. So you can choose to do one or both or none of that and do something different. The sun is going down, so the sun's shining on it. It does make it stand out quite a bit from a distance, so you can always see these panels, but it's and you can still see my truck. But in part, it's about breaking up the eye line, so when people are running through and skirting along, they may not see it 100%, but at the end of the day, the game doesn't give you a whole lot of options, and as we've said before, bases are actually designed to be found, designed to be raided. It's part of the game. It's just something that you have to get used to, and something that is part of DayZ. But this is Woodland Base. I hope you like it. It's one of many. You could do a whole bunch of different styles. I mean, you can do whatever you like. You don't have to hide it. You could make it a castle. Entirely up to you. Do drop a like. Do subscribe to the channel. Do click the bell notification so you know when the next one of the DayZ builds will be coming along. And do feel free to comment on any positives, negatives, pros, cons, anything that you've done or anything changes that you have made on your builds that have given you a greater deal of security. And I will see you all again real soon. Ta-ta for now. PlayStation